Do you want to build a stronger core? Do you suffer from low back pain? Have you had babies in the past and you want to try and get rid of your mommy tummy? Or are you planning on having babies in the future? Or maybe you're just here because you really want to build a strong foundation? Make sure you watch this video all the way to the end because I'm going to give you my top 4 exercises to help activate and strengthen your transverse abdominis muscle. And if you don't know what the transverse abdominis is and what it does, I'm gonna explain all that for you as well. My name is Michelle Roots, kinesiologist, personal trainer, nutrition coach, fitness and fat loss specialist. I have over 15 years experience helping people become the strongest, leanest versions of themselves, beginning with this one muscle, your transverse abdominis. So make sure you subscribe to my channel if you're new here for new videos coming every single week to help you on your fitness and fat loss journey. And of course, if you find any of this information helpful in the video today, make sure you give it a like and leave any questions in the comments below. I'm always happy to help you guys out. Okay, so let's not mess around. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about the core. So often a lot of people come to me saying, I want to build a stronger core. But what they actually mean by that is a 6-pack. So in this video, I want to touch base on what a strong core actually means and what muscles you need to build a stronger core. We're gonna focus specifically on the transverse abdominis, like I said in the intro, and I'm gonna show you how to activate and engage. I like to use the term engage because the transverse abdominis is a very hard muscle to isolate, such as like a bicep muscle, but as long as you know how to properly engage your transverse abdominis, that's your first step to building a 6-pack. If you do not know how to engage those deep core stabilizers, it's gonna be very hard for you to get the most out of all of your core and ab exercises. It's also not gonna help you function better in life and prevent injury and get that 6-pack that you want. So when we look at the core or your abdominals specifically, there are actually 3 major muscle groups that make up the abdominals. So we've got your rectus abdominis. These are the ones on the front. These are your 6-pack muscles. These are the ones that help you bend forward, what we do call forward flexion of the trunk. Then you have your obliques. So we have both internal and external obliques. These are the ones on the side. So these help with rotating the spine and side bending. Then we have your deep pelvic floor muscles and transverse abdominis muscle. It sits right underneath, deep behind the rectus abdominis and the obliques. And the transverse abdominis wraps around your belly to form a corset to almost stabilize and brace the spine and the entire core. So again, in this video today, I'm gonna show you 4 exercises you can do today to start to engage and activate your transverse abdominis muscle. And I'm also first gonna touch base on how to find your transverse abdominis. So how to know if you're actually activating the right muscle and if you're doing it properly. I'm gonna quickly touch base on that as well. I work with a lot of different people who suffer from lower back pain, who just wanna be stronger in life, who work full-time jobs and just wanna be more functional in life, people who have had babies, people who are planning to have babies, athletes, all kinds of different people. And no matter who they are, in my first session with all of these clients, I always make sure they know how to find their transverse abdominis muscle. Because in order to perform exercises that I'm gonna give them properly, I need to know that when I tell them to activate their TA or squeeze their core, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And often people do not know how to do this. So when you're doing planks or you're doing sit-ups or you're doing bird dogs, all of these exercises, you're not actually activating the right muscles in order to get the most out of the exercise. So because I do this on a regular basis with a lot of clients coming to me who've been training for a really long time and don't know how to do this, I thought I'd make a video here today because I feel if there's clients that don't know how to do it, I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there as well who don't know what your transverse abdominis is and how to activate it. Ladies, especially if you are watching this and you have had babies, doctors do not talk to you about this stuff. I have personally had 2 babies and not one midwife or doctor after having my baby talked to me about rebuilding my transverse abdominis and my pelvic floor muscles. 0, nada. Luckily for me, I do this for a living and I know what I needed to do to re-strengthen my core. A lot of women come to me talking about a mommy tummy, or they still have diastasis recti, they still have ab separation after having babies because they were never taught to close the gap. And in turn, it's causing low back pain, it's causing pelvic dysfunction. I can honestly say that when I was pushing out both of my babies, 8 pounds, 4 ounces, 9 pounds, 2 ounces with the second, yes, I had an epidural, but I could actually still engage my pelvic floor muscles. I could talk to them, that mind muscle connection. I felt strong and I actually enjoyed pushing my babies out. I'm a weird one in that for me it was like a physical challenge, and the fact that I could still engage my core muscles even though the doctors warned me that it might take a long time because I'd had an epidural, I just literally talked to that transverse abdominis, I talked to my pelvic floor muscles, and boom, first baby was out in 15 minutes, second baby was out in 7 minutes, and it felt really good. And again, my recovery after having my babies, because I was able to engage those muscles, it came back a lot faster. So if you've had babies, first, of course, consult with your health professional or doctor to make sure everything's okay with you. Make sure you've been approved to do so first. Or if you're thinking about having babies in the future, start now. Build that strong core so you can carry that baby and not suffer from lower back pain and feel great throughout your whole pregnancy and pushing that baby out. Okay, I could talk forever about core and the importance of core. The name of my fitness studio and my fitness business is Core Conditioning because I'm obsessed and I know the importance of building a strong core. Think about your house. The foundation of your house has to be strong or else your house is going to collapse. So if you are doing all of these workouts, deadlifts, squats, bench press, and all of these heavy lifts, but you haven't built a strong foundation, eventually that house is gonna collapse. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna show you how to find your transverse abdominis. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly go over how to find and engage your transverse abdominis, and then we'll get right into the exercises. If you're still having trouble finding that transverse abdominis, I'm not gonna get too scientific in this video. I just wanna give you a quick rundown. There are many other videos here on YouTube by some amazing physiotherapists that might be able to help you. If you are having trouble after this one step I show you and you're still not able to find it, go search on YouTube. Some amazing physiotherapists have some great content on here.
Okay, so what I want you to do first is find the bony points of your hip bones. So find the bony points of your hip bones there, and then I just want you to dig your fingers in about 1 inch just inside that hip bone. So here I am digging my fingers in. So while you're laying here, sometimes what I tell people to do is just cough. So while I'm laying here, you'll feel something like jump up a little bit. If you don't feel it, that's okay. That's just one way of kind of being more aware of what's in. So remember, rectus abdominis on the top, we're trying to get deep underneath to find that transverse abdominis. So the first exercise to find that transverse abdominis is called a pelvic tilt. So we are gonna try and find a neutral pelvis. So we don't wanna be here. We don't wanna be back pressed as hard as we can into the mat. We wanna find a neutral pelvis. So best way to do that is, again, keep your fingers right inside those hip bones. I'm going to bend as hard as I can, getting that arch. Okay, I'm gonna press my back as hard as I can into the floor. And then I'm just gonna do that a few times. Okay, in and out. And then I'm gonna find the spot in the middle. So we call it a neutral spine. Neutral pelvis, neutral spine. So right here, I still have my fingers. I'm still trying to feel for that transverse abdominis muscle. I still got a little bit of an arch in my lower back, but not pressed into the floor and not a huge arch. I'm in what's called a neutral pelvis. So now digging my fingers in, all I'm gonna do is try and engage these deep muscles. So I'm gonna try and almost, we call them the toilet muscles. So pretend you're, ladies or boys, pretend you're trying to hold a pee. So maybe you have to go to the washroom, try and hold it. So we're trying to talk to those muscles and force pressure up against our fingers. So here, squeeze. Okay, so I'm still in neutral pelvis. I'm not pressed too far into the mat, and I'm pressing up against my fingers. And I can feel something popping up there. If you feel it, that's your transverse abdominis muscle. So again, it's hard to isolate that muscle because it's so deep. It's hard to not let any other muscles work at the same time. But one kicker is to make sure you are exhaling as you're trying to activate that muscle. It'll help take your rectus abdominis and your diaphragm out of the game. So if you go like this and squeeze everything, you're gonna end up squeezing all of your muscles at the same time. Instead, you're gonna go neutral pelvis and so I'm exhaling at the same time I'm pressing these muscles up towards my fingers and squeezing for about 3, 2, 1, release everything.
Back to neutral pelvis. And release. So that is the first exercise you can do. It's called a pelvic tilt. So again, it's great for spine mobility and pelvic mobility, rolling your hips back and forth. Just get used to that motion and try and make that deep core muscle do the motion and set yourself into that pelvic neutral position. Hold for about 3 seconds. Again, make sure you are breathing through the entire exercise, going nice and slow and controlled. It might take time for you to activate and almost, it's a mind muscle connection. So really trying to focus, talk to those deep pelvic floor muscles to really feel them working. It might take a week, 2 weeks of doing these exercises, and then a light bulb's gonna go off and you're gonna feel exactly what I'm talking about. So if you do it the first time and you're finding it really hard to activate or engage those muscles, just keep trying. I promise it will get better. You need to connect that brain with those muscles. Okay, exercise number 2 is pelvic marching. So what we're gonna do is go back into that supine position. We're gonna put our fingers back right inside our hip bones. We're gonna find that neutral pelvis. So if you have to rock a few times, once you find that neutral pelvis where you can engage those pelvic floor muscles, slowly you are gonna raise your knee up and down and release. So squeeze, neutral pelvis. So again, what we are trying to watch for, no rocking of the hips. We don't want to feel our pelvis being pulled forward when our leg comes up. We don't want to press our back into the floor. You just want to make sure you are feeling those deep, deep muscles doing the work. If I were to just lay here and do this, my hip flexor is going to do the work and maybe a little bit of my rectus abdominis. But if you are focusing on that deep, deep core engagement, you should feel your pelvic floor muscles and your transverse abdominis muscle engaged and doing most of the work. You'll just continue to do that exercise for about 5 per leg, and you should really, really feel it. Again, the more you do it, the more you're gonna feel those muscles engaging. Exercise number 3. So if you were able to do exercise number 2 and properly engage the right muscles and you were able to feel that transverse abdominis working, we're gonna move on to exercise number 3. I call these dead bugs. So they're a little bit more difficult than exercise number 2, but we're gonna give them a try. So we're back in that position. I'll show you the hardest way first. So again, here we are. Let's find that neutral pelvis. Yay. Once we found our neutral pelvis, now we are no longer gonna have our hands on our hip bones because we should be able to know if we're activating those muscles now. Arms are gonna be straight up. Slowly but surely, you're gonna bring both knees up. So what we're gonna do is go what we call contralateral. So one arm, opposite leg is gonna go down. So again, my back isn't pressed right into the floor. I'm not arching. I'm just in what we call that neutral pelvis position. Arms are straight up, and then slowly controlling that movement, keeping my breathing. I'm gonna lower one arm, opposite leg. Back and forth, back and forth. So hardest is to get that leg all the way straight. If you find that too difficult, you can keep your knee bent and just lower down as far as you can comfortably, like so. Okay, like so. See how I'm moving at a nice slow pace so I can really talk to my pelvic floor, my transverse abdominis, and focus on my breathing. You wanna make sure your rib cage is not popping up, so your rib cage is staying low. That means you're not using your diaphragm to really brace your core, and you wanna make sure there's not a lot of rocking through your hips. Again, if it happens, no worries, just be aware of it and try to fix it as you get stronger. And if you find moving the arm and leg is too hard, we can go into an alternative here, and you can either just do your arms like so, or you can keep your arms up and you can just do the leg, like so. You could give that one a try, maybe try 10 total reps, so 5 per side, or as long as you can go until you feel that transverse abdominis muscle, give up. Maybe at the beginning, you'll only be able to do about 2 reps per side before you start to feel your back start to arch or rotation happening, because you need to build up the endurance of that transverse abdominis and your pelvic floor muscles. But again, the more you do it, the stronger you're gonna get. Okay, last exercise, number 4, we are going to be in the prone position on our hands and knees. These are called bird dogs. So we are now gonna learn how to find our neutral pelvis from a different position. So let's start here. So you are going to be hands and knees. So making sure your wrist is right underneath your shoulder, so we don't want to be here. What we're gonna do now, before we get into that bird dog exercise, we're gonna find our neutral pelvis in this position now. So we're gonna go all the way up, rotate the pelvis. We're gonna go extended arch, rotate the pelvis. Again, a few times, back and forth, before we can find that neutral position. So just in this position here, I've got a nice flat back. I can already feel those deep core muscles, my transverse abdominis working. I can already just feel it awake and engaged. So often you'll see people do a bird dog like this. Okay, fast, uncontrolled. I'm gonna show you how I coach it to my clients to make sure we are engaging the proper muscles and doing it properly. So once we found that neutral pelvis, we're gonna start by raising our leg. So from that neutral pelvis, if I'm gonna raise my left leg, I'm gonna talk to that glute muscle, I'm gonna talk to my deep core stabilizers, I'm gonna go nice and slow and make sure I'm controlling my breathing. I'm going out to full extension. When I get in this position, I'm gonna take a minute again, neutral pelvis again, talk to these deep core stabilizers. I'm also gonna talk to the glute on the opposite side. I'll give you this view to make sure that my hip isn't leaning. Okay, so we wanna keep those hips square. So here we are again, neutral pelvis. I'm talking to that transverse abdominis, and I'm talking to this hip a little bit just to make sure my body's not leaning too much and my hips are both pointing down towards the floor. Once I'm in this position and I feel comfortable, then I'm going to raise my arm. Once I'm out here again, controlling my breathing and talking again to these deep core stabilizers. So with this exercise, you're definitely gonna feel some activation of your rectus abdominis as well. But often when people do this exercise, when it's really fast and boot camp style, and do these up and down, you're actually not working those deep core stabilizers. So as long as you feel some engagement or activation down in those deep pelvic floor and transverse abdominis muscles, you're doing great and you're going slow, controlling your breathing. If you feel a little bit of activation through your rectus abdominis or your diaphragm, totally fine. So again, we would just continue to alternate side to side, going nice and slow until you have mastered that and you've mastered the stability of it. Then you can move into moving your arm and leg at the same time, like so. So here we are. Find our pelvic neutral, core tight. Once I'm engaged, then I'm able to move both at the same time. And once I'm at full extension, I'm gonna reactivate and squeeze and hold. Back down and opposite side. So just like in the dead bug upside down, if you find it too hard to do the leg and the arm at the same time, start with just doing the leg. Hold for about 2 seconds at the top and come back down and alternate legs like that. And then when you feel comfortable, you feel stronger, then you can add your arm. And again, as for reps, shoot for 10, 5 on each side, but try and listen to your body. So if you're finding you're losing the engagement or these muscles have kind of given up on you, 2 per side is fine until you feel stronger and you can push to 3 per side, so on and so forth. Most important is to listen to your body and go nice and slow and controlled. Okay guys, so there you have it. My top 4 exercises to start to engage and activate your transverse abdominis and your deep core stabilizers to build a solid foundation. If you did just have a baby and you're worried about diastasis recti and you wanna know how to close the gap in your abs, check out this video right here. I'm showing exactly how I closed my abs and I'm giving you a few more core exercises in that video as well. I'll leave the link in the description below. But if you're looking to build a stronger core and you really don't know where to start and you're just looking for a simple program to follow. I'm in the process of finishing up my Core in 4 program. 4 weeks to a stronger core, instructional videos, and follow along workouts to help you build a stronger core to just function better in life, relieve back pain, prevent back pain, have babies, and recover. Get rid of mommy tummy, all of the things. You wanna be one of the first to try out this program. I'm only opening it up to a limited number of people who are on my email list when it first releases. So check out the link in the description below where you can join this email list to be one of the first to know when my Core in 4 program comes out. And if you've nailed all the things that I've talked about in this video, make sure you check out this beginner core workout, very basic exercises, but now that you know how to engage your transverse abdominis, this is gonna be a great workout for you. I'll link that video in the description below. Easy, simple, follow along workout, 0 equipment needed. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video and I really hope it will help you build a stronger core and transverse abdominis. Again, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you're not yet subscribed, and leave any questions in the comments below. Let me know if it's working. I wanna know if you're building stronger cores. I love hearing from you guys, so make sure you hit me up in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next week.